saying Bo Nickal doesn't have these credentials. He obviously has the wrestling credentials, but as an MMA fighter, I believe that he's lacking in a few areas. His striking is good, very explosive, very powerful, but does he have the level of jiu-jitsu that I have? I don't believe he has, and I believe that's how I'm going to win. If I'm betting, man, I'm going to bet on Ankalaev to get that victory. I just believe he's got more tools. I just believe he's hungrier, he's younger, he's got all the things to make a champion. I'm not saying Jon Jones is dodging a fight against Tom Aspinall, but if you're at the latter end of your career, the last thing you want to be doing is going with a young, hungry lion. I think Tom Aspinall would be too much for him.
Welcome back to the talkSPORT MMA YouTube channel. My name's Kwaku Afari, and ahead of UFC 309 this weekend in New York, I'm delighted to be joined by UFC middleweight Paul Craig. How you doing, mate?
I'm not too bad. Worst places to be in the world. I know in a few going to be getting punched in the face, but it's a cool day in New York.
And how's fight week going so far?
Yeah, it's been pretty good. Every fight week sort of changes depending on where you are. A place like New York, there's a lot of walking, there's a lot of sights to see, and the last thing you want to do is come to a place like New York. For myself, it's my first time, and not get to see some of these sights and not get to experience the city the way it's meant to be experienced. So the last few days we've been doing the old touristy thing, going to see like the top of the Rock, checking out the Empire State Building, doing a walk around the Central Park. But now it's getting to that point where calories out and calories make a huge difference. So it's all about watching what I'm eating, watching what I'm drinking, and making weight, because that's where it is now.
I was going to say, it's quite difficult to avoid the trappings of all the good food in New York, so you're doing quite well with that, man. This is also your fourth fight at middleweight, previously fought at light heavy. How is the weight cut going so far?
A weight cut's always tough. If I'm cutting to 93 kg or I'm cutting to 84 kg, it's tough no matter when you're making it. It's just a little bit more about being disciplined when you're making this middleweight. So when there's opportunity to smell the food trucks as you're walking about the city, you don't get a choice to eat them. You never ever touch them as a middleweight. Maybe as a light heavyweight, you could maybe make some like, right, I can have some protein, I can have a little bit of rice off them. But as a middleweight, you're walking about and you're smelling them and you're not getting to actually experience them. But come Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday, I'm going to be experiencing all the food that New York has to offer.
Go to Cat's Deli. The sandwiches there are unbelievable. Yeah, let me know how you get on. You took on Pereira in your last fight. Unfortunately, tasted defeat from your point of view. What adjustments have you made in this fight camp to ensure that it doesn't happen against Bo Nickal on the weekend?
Yeah, when you look at like the credentials of someone like Pereira and his rise, it's slightly different for Bo Nickal. No, I'm not saying Bo Nickal doesn't have these credentials. He obviously has the wrestling credentials, but as an MMA fighter, I believe that he's lacking in a few areas. His striking is good, very explosive, very powerful, but does he have the level of jiu-jitsu that I have? I don't believe he has, and I believe that's how I'm going to win on Saturday night in the MSG. Pereira, I worked really hard for that camp, and I put everything I had in that, and I did believe that I was able to outstrike him and outgrapple him. And anytime he did go to the ground, like, he didn't want to be involved in these grappling exchanges and stood right back up and wanted to strike. And for a fair reason, like, why would you want to go to the ground with Paul Craig, whose jiu-jitsu is very sneaky? So moving forward, I spent the summer rebuilding, looking at what I want to do, set some goals, because for a long time with this sport, I wanted to be a champion. I wanted to be in the top 10, in the top 5, in the mix with some of these greats of all time, in the mix with some of the up-and-comers. So I had to change that, and I had to go from being about making my way to the title to now being about moments, being about fighting for the sake of fighting. And that's what this is now. This is a fight that gets me excited. You've got a young guy, Bo Nickal, who's unbeaten in mixed martial arts, has that wrestling credentials, and all I need to do is beat him. And I make it sound easy by just saying beat him. But I do believe that I have the skills, the attributes, the drive, the determination, the hunger. I believe I'm coming in at my prime to beat this guy. And even though that the bookmakers and all the pundits and everybody that's involved within the world of mixed martial arts are saying that he's going to be the next guy. I do believe that I can take that zero from come Saturday night.
You mentioned people were saying that he's the next guy. He's got a lot of hype behind him. Do you think the hype is justified?
Well, when you look at his credentials as a wrestler, definitely, and we look at his previous fights within the UFC, he's steamrolling guys. He's beating them within the first round. But what that is he's not getting enough experience, not enough ring time. Now, you can be in the gym and you can be doing all the training that you want to do and gain as much experience there, but it's not being in the octagon. It's not about, it's not the same. If you've had enough in the gym, you can quit, you can tap, you can say you've had enough. You leave at the end of the day. With the octagon, you don't get to do that. And not to have that experience and not doing 15 minutes or not doing 5 minutes, it's different. There's a whole host of emotions that go on with this. Not only that, he's this American guy who everybody's shown love and respect for. Even the US president's going to be there for him. Now he's got the pressure of he needs to perform. I'm coming with no pressure. I'm the guy that everybody thinks is going to lose. So there's no pressure on me. All I have to do is defy odds. And I'm down with that. I've done it many times before. When you look at my whole career, I have never been the dog in the fight. I've never been the favourite. And it's never ever affected how my outcome has been. And that's what I'm going to showcase on Saturday.
Your stark different stages of your career. If you look at Bo Nickell, he's right at the beginning of it, 6 fights in. Like you mentioned, you are a seasoned veteran when it comes to MMA. When it comes to UFC specifically, you fought the likes of Khalil Roundtree, you fought Shogun Hu a couple times, the only man to inflict defeat on Ankalaev, Jamal Hill. These are the best of the best light heavyweights, and you've been in the cage with them. In terms of the light heavyweights you've previously fought, you look at Khalil Roundtree, look at Jamal Hill. They've both already lost to Alex Pereira. Ankalaev, a man that you have beaten, is set to take Alex Pereira on next year. How do you think Ankalaev does in that fight, having shared the octagon with him?
Yeah, as you're saying, like the who's who of light heavyweights, I've been in the octagon with them, and the vast majority of the time, like I'm getting victories over them. But when you look at a guy like Alex Pereira, who has that skill in kickboxing, that combat skill, and that power in his hands, it's very hard to see past it. But when you bring in someone like the Dagestanis, who have incredible wrestling pressure and work ethic, it's tough. Do I think Ankalaev can beat Pereira? I do believe he can. I believe he's got all the credentials, as long as he doesn't go into this thing where he believes he's a striker. You stand in front of someone with a kickboxing pedigree that Pereira has, and I believe it can be a 50-50 lottery sometimes. Ankalaev, if he plays his skill set well and uses his wrestling and uses his striking to get in deep and out wrestle, I believe that's how he can get that victory.
So you mentioned how each of those fighters can win that matchup. Who do you think actually does win if they do face off in the octagon next year?
If I'm betting, man, I'm going to bet on Ankalaev to get that victory. I just believe he's got more tools. I just believe he's hungrier, he's younger, he's got all the things to make a champion. And right now, in every single division, you're looking at at least one Russian or one Dagestani guy climbing up the rankings to take that belt. And I believe by the end of 2026, you're going to just see every single champ is going to be Russian, Dagestani, or from that part of the world. Just their wrestling is incredible. And not only that, when you think about it, it adds to my legacy as well. If Ankalaev gets the belt, when you look at people who have beat, first person to beat Jamal Hill, the only other person to beat him is the champ. First person to beat Ankalaev, the only other person that he's potentially going to get lost to is the champ, or he's going to be the champion. So it adds to my legacy as well if Ankalaev gets the victory.
You're very realistic when it comes to your MMA career. And I know that MMA maths doesn't normally work out, but you beat Ankalaev. You've got a very specific skill set that will cause someone like Alex Pereira problems. Say you were to share the octagon with someone like Alex Pereira, do you think you'd get the job done?
I do believe, like, anytime, doesn't matter who you're fighting, you've always got this. If I'm going in there, I'm going in there to win. I'm never going in there to take, oh, well, I could win. You need to have a little bit of self-belief, and you need to have belief in your own skills and your own attributes. I do believe that I could beat him, and I do believe it would be the grappling exchanges. Many have tried, and many have failed, and that's what makes this sport so beautiful. The fact that there's always going to be an up-and-comer. There's always going to be somebody clipping at your heels to try and become the champion after you. Skill set wise, I do believe my grappling is very dangerous, and it's very dangerous for mixed martial arts.
In a weird way, Alex Pereira kind of ties into the card you're on this weekend. Jon Jones has been doing recent interviews talking about his future opponents, not overlooking Stipe, but saying that Alex Pereira is a man that he wants to fight for his legacy. You've also talked about legacy earlier on in this interview. In terms of the main event on UFC 309, how does Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic go?
Yeah, as you were saying, Jon Jones is at this point in his career where it's not about the fights. He's the champion. He's the GOAT. He's the 2 times. He's the light heavyweight and heavyweight world champion. He's not wanting to be chasing these fights that don't really get him excited. And that's why he's looking at the potential of fighting Pereira. Like, oh, maybe I can go down here and beat up a guy in Pereira. Because there is holes within Pereira's game. And Jon Jones sees that. Having his flamboyant jiu-jitsu style as well as his striking. So he's thinking about, like, I can just cement my legacy even more by beating someone like that and staying away from someone like Tom Aspinall, who's very compact. You know, Tom has got that great boxing style. He's got incredible jiu-jitsu, and he's got that knockout power. So I'm not saying Jon Jones is dodging a fight against Tom Aspinall, but if you're at the latter end of your career, the last thing you want to be doing is going with a young, hungry lion like Tom Aspinall, who's trying to unify that heavyweight belt. How I think this fight's going to go on Saturday, I just believe Jon Jones is going to be too much for the older Stipe Miocic. Stipe has an incredible list of victories, and he's one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. But he's up against Jon Jones, and a heavyweight Jon Jones, and we've seen how easy he made work of Cyril Gane in his previous light heavyweight fight, and I believe he's going to be able to do the same. There's a reason everybody's talking about this card, and it's Jon Jones, and there's a reason why everybody is excited for this card, Jon Jones, and I'm not taking away anything from Stipe Miocic. Stipe Miocic always has that puncher's chance, but I just believe skill set wise, Jon Jones is the guy.
Jon Jones is the guy in many people's opinion. You mentioned that he's a GOAT. Is that undisputed in your mindset? Is Jon Jones the GOAT of MMA?
Yeah, Jon Jones has a lot of asterisks next to his name. You know, he's done some dubious things in the past. There's maybe like some stuff about picograms in his leg. But what you've got to remember is, if we're just taking into consideration fighting, he's the greatest. You look at who he's beat, you look at how long he's done it, one of the youngest champions ever, beat the who's who of legends, cleared out the light heavyweight division, and done that while still having bans within his record, dealing with court cases. So for me, Jon Jones is the GOAT.
And in terms of Jon Jones, is he... I know that he's not ducking anybody, but there's an element of fans in MMA who are saying that he has to do the service to Tom Aspinall, like the light heavyweights did the service to Jon Jones. When he was running through the division when he was young, he fought the who's who legends of the game who had records that could be affected by Jon Jones beating them, but they did the job for him. Is there not an element of MMA where when you're that veteran, when you're that GOAT, when you're that all-time legend, you have to give the opportunity to the young lion to take that O from you?
Yeah, you do. You're absolutely right with that, especially with Jon Jones up getting the 12-6 elbow loss off his record. So he's going to leave this sport as an unbeaten world champion. And what you've got to think about is Jon Jones is coming to the end of his career. Now, to go up against a young guy in Tom Aspinall, as I said, we're very hungry, very skilled in all areas. It doesn't matter if it's boxing or there's grappling elements. He is one of the greatest to do it in Tom Aspinall. Do you really want to put one of your legacies? Do you want to put your legacy in jeopardy by going up against him? Of course not. And I'm not saying that he's dodging people. He's dodging Tom Aspinall. It does look like that, but he hasn't dodged MD in his career. And I don't believe it's in his nature. I believe he's hungry, and I believe he wants to fight Stipe Miocic because he's seen as the greatest heavyweight on paper, the most title defences. So I get why he's chasing that fight, and I get potentially why he's chasing the Pereira fight. He wants to be excited about fights. He's seen these young guys come before, and everybody's giving them the hype and giving them the push, and he's went through them. Do I think Tom Aspinall, he does that to Tom Aspinall? I don't think so. I think Tom Aspinall would be too much for him. But I get why it looks like he's dodging him, but I do believe it's all about legacy for Jon Jones.
Right.
A couple more before I let you go. Tom Aspinall hasn't got a fight. He's defended his interim belt. He's done everything that the organisation's asked of him so far. What should Tom Aspinall do for his next fight? Because I'm of the opinion, if you want to fight Jon Jones, take away that option from Jon Jones. Go and fight Alex Pereira. It's a big money fight, big legacy fight, big name. And then Jon Jones has got nowhere to go if you beat Alex Pereira. So that's my opinion, but I want to know what you think that Tom Aspinall should do in 2025.
So, looking at it as an organisation point of view, when you think about the UFC, if they put Tom Aspinall against someone like Pereira, and Tom is, as I said, he's one of the most skilled fighters in the whole of the UFC roster. You put him up against someone like Pereira, and he beats Pereira, then you've lost yourself one of your golden gooses. You've lost yourself one of your top prospects within this sport. You think about how many fights Pereira's had. You think about all the different shows he's been a part of, saving 301 or was it 300, saved that card, saved a few other cards to fight in short notice. So by doing that, I don't think it works out well for Pereira, and then you've hampered your business. I think given the opportunity, I think it's Jon Jones or a bust for Tom Aspinall. I think he just needs to be sitting in that sideline and have that constant pecking at, like, I want a Jon Jones fight, I want that Jon Jones fight. There's no one else for Tom to fight. He's basically cleared out the whole of the division, and there's only one other person, and I don't think they want to fight Tom, and that's Cyril Gane. So it's a tough situation to be Tom at the moment, but I do believe he should hold off for that Jon Jones fight. Do I think it'll happen? Only Saturday will tell. Then I can't wait to see what the outcome of this is going to be, because there's a few different people who have got stuff riding on this. We'll see Jon Jones potentially get the victory over Stipe Miocic, and then he'll decide that it's going to be retirement or it's going to be fighting Tom Aspinall, who is going to be in the crowd. And then you've got guys like, we've seen Chandler, who has been sidelined for the last year waiting on that McGregor fight up against Charles Oliveira. There's a lot of work for Chandler to do to become in that top 10 and be that champion. So I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen between there. So there's a lot of stuff happening in this camp, and I'm excited to see where it goes after Saturday.
Absolutely huge card, enhanced by the fact that you're on there taking on Bo Nickell. UFC's just announced that they're coming back to London in March. Can we see you on that card back on UK soil?
I love fighting in London. It's definitely a place where I've enjoyed. I've had some of my greatest victories. Having a victory over Ankalaev in London last second, getting the victory as my first middleweight fight against Andre Munoz, and then obviously having the loss to Ozdemir as well. Like, these are all part of my career. I would love to be part of it. It's a card for the UK, and it's a card for the fans of mixed martial arts. It's always a band bummer, and I want to be part of it. But first and foremost, it's Saturday night. You can't look past your opponent. You can't be like, oh, I'm going to fight in London against this opponent. It needs to be what's there now, and what's there now is Bo Nickal at the MSG on Saturday night. That's the shark that's closest to the boat.
Paul Craig, you're always brilliant. Thank you very much, man, and good luck for the weekend.
Appreciate it, man.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app, and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.